Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Excuse me, I feel like I always cough after I say that. It's because I don't like doing that bit. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. Today we have got two cars. We've got two cars to fix today. Matt from High Peak Autos, which I'm sure you've all heard of. If you haven't, link in the description to Matt's channel. He's dropped off two Mercedes for me. We've got a 170 SLK and we've got a 221 S-Class. SLK, he has told me the roof's not working and he wants a gearbox service. This car, this SLK, has only done 55,000 miles. It's actually quite a nice car. As you can see, the roof lining is missing, and that is because Matt has sent that away to be retrimmed. So first things first, get this in, see why the roof's not working. Right, the roof has stopped working. It's kind of operated halfway, I'll say. Some people might argue it's a third. So that's where we are. So that is the symptoms that Matt was telling me. So the first thing I'm going to do is, because we're getting some operation but not full operation, and this is a low mileage car, that means this roof hasn't probably been used a lot. We don't use them anyway because we live in England and we don't have the weather. When it's really low mileage, they're getting used even less. You could just use it in summer, I suppose, and everything I've said means nothing. So let's close it back down. Before I plug it in on the diagnostics machine, start messing around, I'm going to cover the basics. One of the most common items for the roof on one of these, I'd say, is the relay, which is located in the boot next to the pump. Let's just swap that out. It's a good thing to swap out even if yours does work. Let's go from there. Simple as that. There's the relay. Right, new relay fitted. This could be a complete waste of time. However, it's a good basic thing to do. Ignition on, running. Always operate your roof with your engine running because you want full power and you don't want to drain your battery because it takes a lot of power consumption to operate. Oh, hey! Well, not even plugged it in, not even got my hands dirty. So Matt, I hope you're pleased with that. I could be speaking too soon here. I'll give it a good 5 or 10 operations, not all at once because you can overheat the pump and it can cut out due to overheating, and make sure that is the end of that. But Matt did tell me it was working perfectly fine, and it stopped working after the MOT or something like that. So really pleased with that. I'm pleased for someone else getting the car fixed for cheap. I don't think I've ever driven a car down the road with the roof down. I really don't think I have. I don't really like it. I feel very vulnerable, but I know people love it. Maybe it's something I need to get used to, that. I feel vulnerable just sat in my own car park. Right, I've operated the roof good 5-6 times now. Like I explained, it's not something you want to overheat doing it on and off, on and off. I've had customers do that. You fix the roof and then they ring you up when they get home because they've been on the driveway dropping it, closing it, dropping it, closing it, and they say, oh, it don't work. And it's like, well, you've timed it out now because it's overheated. Anyway, stick it on the ramp. Matt has asked for a gearbox service, something he's very keen on, which is the right thing to do. It's done 55,000 miles, may not have had one before. It's got the 111 engine. This was a really good engine. 2.3 supercharged. It's a shame that they moved on from that engine to the 271 engine, because that was really good engine. So far so good. We've got it on the ramp, just gives the gearbox bolts a good lubrication. The gearbox sump is quite rusty, but it's more surface rust than anything, so it actually looks worse than it is. I'll ask Matt would he like it replacing whilst we're in there, but it does look worse than it is, to be fair, but you never know. See what colour this fluid is. Yeah, that's not too bad, that. It could be its original fluid, that. We just don't know with the low mileage. Just having a smell in case it smells burnt. Right, see if these bolts come undone. I don't know what it is with these SLKs, 170 SLKs, but the gearbox bolts always seem to get stuck or even snap, so that's why I'm just being careful with these ones. So only on these. Yeah, that's tight. Don't like the feel of that one, or this one. No, I don't like that at all. Right, first thing I'm going to try is an impact driver. What that does is, as you hit it with a hammer, not only are you shocking it with the impact, it tries to undo it a small, it tries to undo it a small bit. A small bit, is that correct terminology? So that's tight, and that's under. I can't tell if that's working or not.
No, won't look like it.
Is it this one? Is it just me, or is that one going? Oh. I don't want to snap one of these. That's moving, that. The trick is, when you think it's come undone, to not get carried away, because even though it has come undone, it can still snap. So backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. It's going to look very corroded, Nathan, yeah.
Better word for it.
There we go. So that bolt is, oh, I feel how warm that is. So that bolt is stuck in the bracket, so that doesn't help. Right, we'll worry about that later. One down, one to go. See how it works?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. It's quite an old school tool. I think that snapped.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to happen. I was just gonna say, that's a really old school tool that a lot of people forget about. Yeah, it's a really good old school tool. However, it's not, well, it's worked for me 1 out of 2 attempts. I can barely get this bracket off. Come on.
Coming in it.
Yeah, I had no chance getting that out. Wait. So once the gearbox sump is off, I've then got another attempt at getting the stud out. So then we don't have to damage the threads and drill them out and stuff like that. But at least it's a central one where it does go all the way through. So hopefully we can do something about that. You can see the contamination on the back of the filter. I wonder if it's got a date on it. Yeah, this is the original filter. So this is its first gearbox service. 4th of the 8th, 1998. I think we will flush the torque converter out. I say flush, just get the extra fluid out of the torque converter. So if we say flush and we don't flush fluid through it, somebody will be on us in the comments. Right, more importantly, stud. So the advantage is now that the stud snapped, we can wind it inwards as well as out, because obviously with the bracket on you can't go in. So hopefully, spray. Get up. I think it's moving.
Yeah, it is moving.
It's not very much.
No.
Patience. Snapped again. So we're now left with the stud stuck in the gearbox. I can tell you now, I ain't moving. Right, so numerous attempts to extract the remaining stud failed. I've ended up having to drill out the whole bolt so that the whole size is bigger than it needs to be now, and then we're going to fit a helicoil to bring the size back down so we can use the original bolt so it all looks factory. Safety squint.
On 4 to be fair.
You couldn't make this up. Yeah, can I just drop this off, Sam? Yeah, of course, Matt, no problem. Roof not working, gearbox service, yeah, don't worry, mate. Monday afternoon, going home time, thought get this done before we go home. And it'll still be on the ramp in the morning.
I think it's good.
Oh, nice old SLK. Oh, it's lovely, that. Lovely job. Yeah, the tap's actually gone through. I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, now I need a new tap. So this is an extra hour's labour on the job, plus the cost of a tap. That's probably, well, this is an oversized tap, so it's probably 20 quid. So now we're going to insert the, got to insert a helicoil, so that'll give us the original size thread, so we can use an original bolt. So what we're just doing is, before people lose their minds in the comments, why haven't you drained the torque converter? Not all Mercedes had a torque converter drain. So we've just spanned the engine round, turning the torque converter around, there's no drain. So what we're going to do is the next best thing, really. Right, we always set this at, it doesn't even register pressure on the gauge because we do it really low pressure. Then we'll leave that on for till we go home, really, and then we'll have to come back to this one in the morning. But as you can see, it gets a lot more fluid out. We charge extra to do this for obvious reasons. It uses extra fluid and it takes extra labour. Does a really good job, especially on these 5 speeds. Like I say, it's not registering, although there's pressure going in, obviously it's that minimal. It's not even registering the gauge, just to be super safe. You don't need to rush this. You can leave it be, have a tidy up. So far, good fix with the roof. I'll carry on testing that throughout the time we've got it. Gearbox service hasn't really gone to plan. Had a quick look around the car. It's got a Carlson exhaust on it. I thought it might just be exhaust tips, but looking at it, it's a genuine Carlson back box. For those that don't know what or who Carlson is, they made tuning / performance sporty things for Mercedes, a bit like AMG. They made some nice stuff actually, some nice wheels and stuff. Right, new day. We ran out of time yesterday, so we left it draining all night, just dripping away. We've got authorization to put a new sump pan on it. The old sump didn't have a magnet in there to pick up all the stuff that floats around in the gearbox. We've put 2 new magnets in the new sump, full set of new bolts to go in the brackets because they were quite rusty. So let's get this back together, fill her up, get it done. So we're going to measure what fluids come out, because obviously we've done the extra drain, pushed the extra fluid out with the tool, and we've left it dripping. So we'll see what's come out. About 5.5, nearly 6 litres has come out of that. That's a 5 litre jug and it's way past the 5 litre mark, probably nearly 6 litres. So we've got a good amount out of the gearbox there, which is what we wanted, because that is the original fluid that left the factory. Original sump, there was no magnet. So when the cars were newer, they started putting magnets inside, because when this model first came out, Mercedes said that it was a sealed gearbox, a sealed for life gearbox they called it, and you didn't service it. And then as time went on, they started to change their mind, put magnets in it and put a service schedule on it. We've put 5 litres in. We'll work our way up. We'll get it up to the first temperature you can check it at is 25 degrees. And then we'll get the fluid level correct, go on a road test, get it up to 80 degrees and check it again. So far, so good. Well, I said that yesterday and then snapped a bolt, then snapped a tap. Today's a new day. We're gonna have a better day today. Today's Tuesday. Make sure the roof still works. It got stuck there last time. Oh my God. Oh no, there we go. There we go. Oh, I honestly didn't think it was gonna go then. New roof lining been retrimmed. He's asked us to put this back on, but I didn't take it off, so we're just having a little figure out. Might be a bit tight because of the new
padded
trim. Right, so stop this seat creaking. That's better. That is the first one for Matt all done. Gearbox service. I don't want to say it turned into a bit of a nightmare, because it's kind of part and parcel of these older vehicles, but I really could have done without it. However, roof fix, that was a nice little cheap fix, so I think he'll be happy with that. Gearbox is changing, very nice. So we gave it an extra bleed with the special bleed tool. We left it draining overnight. Like I say, we got about 6 litres out of it. Usually you'd get about 3.5, so I'm happy with that. New sump pan. The old one would have lived again, but somebody would have had to have replaced it at some point in the next future years. Matt's had that replaced whilst we're at it. So I'll give this one a road test, make sure I'm happy with everything. Back to the garage, check the gearbox fluid one last time at full temperature. Roof lining's back in. I'm actually really happy with that. The trimmer's done a nice job of that. It looks factory. Job done, and we'll move on to the next one. Right, next up we've got Matt's cheap S-Class. Oh, engine management lights on and the glow plug lights on. Right, so Matt's told me it's in engine limp mode, which revs won't go over 3,000 RPM and you'll have no turbo boost.
So they're usually very quick, and this one, that's my foot to the floor. It's like I'm in an old 3-litre diesel non-turbo. That's what it feels like. Nowhere near as powerful as it should be.
Matt loves a cheap S-Class. Doesn't matter how many times I tell him. However, I can kind of see why he's bought this one. It's quite good. It's got the AMG body kit on from factory, which always looks good. It's on 127,000 and it was cheap. I saw this car on Matt's video. He took it to his local garage for, I think it's like a bit of a service, MOT, brakes, stuff like that, and it was looking very, very sorry for itself. So Matt got in contact and said, we're in limp mode, can we drop her off? So here we are. So let's get involved, get some testing done, see what's going on. Right, give it a quick plug in. We've got faults for 2 glow plugs. So we need to test the glow plugs, make sure they are failed and it's not a relay issue. And we've got a fault for the inlet port shut-off motor. Right, I can tell you now, I'm just looking at the motor. I'm actuating it to see if I can get any movement out of it, which I can't, but even looking down there, there's a lot of bolts missing down there. So I have a feeling somebody's been messing around in here before. We need to get this cover off first of all. There's the inlet manifold motor, which is buried underneath the turbo. As you can see, it's full of oil. The reason it's full of oil is this seal fails and allows oil to leak out of there, down, and drip straight on the motor, which in effect makes the motor fail. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fit a resistor into the plug of the inlet motor, which will bypass the motor, make sure that gets us out of limp mode. And I'm also going to test the glow plugs to make sure that the ones that the diagnostics are saying have failed, because if they test good, then that would mean we've got a glow plug relay issue. So we've got 2 tests to do, which involves a small strip down, putting it all back together, and then stripping it all back down again. But it's better to test and confirm. So we've got glow plug cylinder 1 and 5. Right, so we've gained access to the glow plugs. I'm just going to test a known good glow plug, which is cylinder 2 on the tester. So as you could see, it was holding amps, volts, and it's passed. So we'll put it on the one it's saying it's faulty, which is cylinder 1. Test, and that's a fail. So that confirms what the diagnostics is saying is correct. Should that have passed the test, it's something else. Suspect relay. You can get it wrong. This is why it's important to test. Don't just presume. we need a set of glow plugs. That is not going to get him out of limp mode. It will make the car start better and less smoky in the morning. Usually when you get a couple of glow plugs down, you start getting a little puff of smoke in the morning, bit of a longer crank as well.
That's not quite right. I've just lost those ramblers in a cloud of black smoke as well.
It's funny how glow plugs don't have a service life, you know, like a spark plug. It would be a lot easier if they did, because it would stop them seizing in and snapping and all sorts. But you know, we're expected to get that plug out. That's been stuck in there for 15 years. And they are very thin as well, with a tiny little thread on them, which makes it even more fun. Right, next up I've got a tiny little resistor which I'm going to plug into the inlet manifold motor plug. The reason I'm doing this is that will bypass the motor, because I want to road test the car to make sure there's no other issues with it before we go ahead and say you need a motor. The motor, it's naturally in its open position, so it's not going to do it any harm driving around with that in it, because the ports are just open all the time. Obviously if it was closed, it wouldn't be a good test. Put it back together. Obviously we're going to have to replace these seals that are leaking. For now we're just going to throw it back together, take it down the road and make sure power is restored. I've just remembered as well, now I've got it off the diagnostics machine, the passenger front window doesn't go up and down. So we need to have a look at that as well, but we'll get back involved after the road test. Now, obviously we've got the bypass resistor fitted at the moment. Engine management light has gone off. It doesn't feel like we're in limp mode, but we'll wait till we get on the bypass. I'll tell you what, for 15-year-old S-classes or whatever they are, they're still a nice car, these. It's a lot of car for the money. You've just got to have deep pockets to keep on top of the maintenance. Hey, that's the first, an S-Class that's not got sticky buttons. It's actually in pretty good condition in here. The problem is, when you buy a cheap S-Class, is budget. How far do you go? And we're definitely not in limp mode, and surprisingly, no black smoke came out of the back. So it pulls quite well actually. So basically what I've done there, it's just eliminating that part and confirming that that is the problem. I have had inlet port motor codes on these 642 engines, and it's actually been the turbo, because they share the same live feed, and I've had turbos fail, the actuators fail, and demanding too much current away from the motor, and you get a fault for the motor as well. So I like to just use that little resistor just to make sure, because I have been caught out before, I'm not ashamed to say it. How much did Matt pay for this? 1,600 quid? You can't not buy it, can you? Down the bypass. Yep, no limp mode, no smoke. Just cruising along a cheap S-Class. So we'll head back to the garage, speak to Matt, and go from there. Passenger door doesn't go up or down on passenger or driver side. These S-Classes used to be quite common for corrupt software in the door control unit. So first thing I'm going to do is see if I can put some new software on it. Quite easily diagnose that for a window motor or a door control module, and it might not be the case. So hopefully that's what's wrong with it, and it's a nice cheap fix. There is software available. Install. You don't think a 15-year-old car window would stop working because of software. This is how advanced these cars were. It's like when an app stops working on your phone and you've got to do an update. If this works, I feel like he's getting some good fixes here. Reason for update. So we have to tell Mercedes why are we updating it. Because your window won't work. Coding for the control unit erased. Check coding correctors if necessary. What do you reckon?
Gotta work on it.
Bye. fresh. Just need to normalise the window. That should be done now. All the way down on the one touch. It's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah, not too bad.
A few moments later.
Looks like I spoke too soon. We've got ABS and ESP problems. I'm pretty sure Matt has said in the video that he was having ABS issues.
My ABS and ESP light are on. See owner's manual. Terrific.
I think he forgot to relay that to me. ABS, ESP lights on. Speedo is in a world of its own, thinking it's doing 200 mile an hour. And if you're an SPR weekly viewer, you'll know exactly what that is, as we've had it a few times before. Right, as suspected, it wants 4 ABS sensors on it. It's a common fault this guy's on the S-Class CL. 4 sensors. The dash is going wild, handbrake is activating as and when it feels like it. Sometimes it's just activating on as you're driving. So back on with the S-Class, we've had a conversation with Matt of the best approach with this car, because obviously it's a cheap project car. We are on a budget because the retail of the car is only so much. You can quite easily just go crazy and end up with 0 or negative profit. So spoke to Matt, he's authorised the glow plugs, so we've replaced those. Luckily all the old ones came out really easily. They have been replaced before with NGK glow plugs. I don't know why Mercedes and NGK glow plugs don't mix. We always use Baru, which is what Mercedes genuine glow plugs, they're made by Baru. We're going to change the 2 seals that go on the intake pipe to seal it all up nice, so we're not losing any boost pressure. And with regards to the inlet motor, it's quite a big job doing that. So we've had a discussion. You know, once you're that far into the V, you've got to take the turbo off to do it. Then you're at the inlet motor. Then you're kind of halfway to doing oil cooler seals. I'm not saying this car does need oil cooler seals. I'm just saying it's kind of getting onto the while you're in there. But, you know, it's an old smoker. You know, what do we do? So I've suggested to Matt, why don't we leave the bypass plug / resistor in it and see how we go, because we don't know how the car drives. We need to get some mileage on the car, make sure there's nothing wrong with anything else, because that job, do you just do that on its own, or do you go all the way and do the oil coolers, or do you just do a cheap and cheerful fix and call it a day? When the motor's unplugged, or not in use I'll say, the inlet flaps inside the manifold are constantly open, so it's not causing any damage to the engine. In fact, this engine in a Mercedes Sprinter, they don't even have an inlet motor, they just have it straight through and that's it. Loads of people delete that part out of the system. A lot of people, if they have to take inlet manifolds off, remove the swirl flap out of the manifold completely. So it's not unusual to do that, but I think because this is a budget car, because in the trade we call it an old smoker, you know, it's about just maintaining the car to a reasonable standard and enjoying it. You know, if this was a repair on my E63, I'd just fix it properly. If it was my £2,000 cheap S-Class, to be honest, I'd just do that. Should you ever need a turbo on it, or should you ever need oil coolers and you're stripping it all down, then you just got to fix it properly while you're in there. So for now, we're going to leave it like that, get some miles on the car, make sure everything else is good, and then we can reevaluate the situation. But like I say, that isn't uncommon, and that engine in commercial vehicles doesn't even have it. So there. Right, 4 ABS sensors have arrived in stock, so that says it all really, that, you know, they must sell a lot of them. One axle's £90 each, the other's £120 each. So, you know, you're getting on £500 in sensors alone. These S-classes cost money, guys. So let's get these 4 sensors fitted, get all the lights off the dash, get some more road testing done on it, and then we've got a safe car to drive. Right, ABS sensors are all fitted. ABS light is off, ESP light is off. Dashboard is now reading correct miles per hour reading, as it was suggesting we were doing 200 miles an hour stationary. And in true cheap S-Class style, we have now developed another fault. The handbrake motor is making a horrendous noise. As soon as I get in the car with the ignition off, we've got a handbrake fault on the dash. We've got a terrible noise coming from the back, and I can hear a really bad rotational noise from the back. This car has had rear discs, rear pads and rear shoes, but we're going to have to strip it down again and see what's going on. Right, we're on the ramp. Come with me. We've instantly found another problem to add to the list. So, handbrake electronic motor sounds really noisy. There's a noise coming from this wheel on rotation. Upon trying to rotate the wheel, you can hear the noise, and I am really struggling to turn that wheel. So the back brakes are binding as well.
I think we've got a sticking caliper as well. Oh, that doesn't sound good, does it? Remember that scene in the Titanic where it was making all those creaking noises just before the boat snapped in two? That's what this is doing.
If you come around to the other side, this one is exactly the same. And when I smell the brakes, they smell really hot. To give you an idea of how free the wheel should turn without any brakes applied, that's it. Before I take the wheel off, I'm just going to pull the caliper back a bit, see if I can pull it by hand, just to try and push the piston back in. Enough, yeah. All I've done is pull that caliper towards me, which has pushed the piston back a little bit. So we're definitely looking at rear calipers binding on this. Full power. Come on. Hey. Something just fell out already. Oh.
Oh my god. Everything's falling out. Oh, yeah. Just a bit of shoe.
And as you can see there, the whole shoe assembly has fallen to pieces. Why that's happened, I'm not sure. Look at that. That was a shackle which pivots the handbrake cable.
Is that too?
That has not just happened on a 2-mile road test. That's, oh, it's bent, look at that.
Yeah.
So, looks like we're going to have to do the whole handbrake job again. Which makes me now not trust the other side. Okay, hopefully that's the reason the handbrake motor sounds terrible, because it's just not pulling anything. So hopefully it's just we need to redo the shoes, address this caliper situation, and be good to go. The flexes need replacing as well. They're starting to crack, but we'd always do flexes with calipers anyway. Since you did the ABS sensor.
Since I did it, yeah.
Since that ABS sensor behind here, that handbrake's fallen to bits,
Yeah,
mate.
yesterday.
Right, so we've took the other side off as well, and we can see what the problem is really. This side isn't far off having the same issue. Basically, the shoe should be sat on top of this shelf here, and that one should be butted up against the bottom. So they're just not fitted correctly, and also the back plates have been cut. The reason, that's not unheard of to do that. The reason they've done that is because they don't want to take the whole hub off to fit the plate. Another call back to Matt, I think. Plus we've got the rear calipers binding, so we're looking at shoes, back plates, calipers. Discs and pads are obviously brand new. There's no damage to the inside of the disc, so that I'm happy for that to go again. But yeah, this needs all ripping out and redoing. And fingers crossed there's nothing wrong with that handbrake motor, because I think that's about £1,000 on its own. Matt could make a cheap S-Class compilation, couldn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
That's a future video, Matt. Do Matt's cheap S-Class compilation?
Yeah.
Compilation. Right, we have figured out what's the reason why the handbrake shoes have failed, the brand new ones, and the reason is they're the wrong size. The shoes that were fitted weren't quite long enough, so they're supposed to sit on this edge here, and they were falling short and they were sat on the inside. They just weren't the right fitment. I'd highly recommend only using genuine handbrake shoes. You get more meat on the shoe and they're just a miles better fitment. So these are either wrong or manufactured wrong or just rubbish. Obviously the back plate on the other side, because of the shoes falling to pieces, has damaged the back plate. So I've been to Mercedes and got another back plate. However, this side back plate, the driver's side rear, is on factory back order. So we're going to have to reuse this and make do with what we've got. However, on the other side, we are removing the hub and fitting the whole thing. We don't want to cut it. We're just going to do it properly. So, genuine shoes, genuine shoe kit. We're going to make do with what we can on this side, which I'm sure it'll be fine. We're keeping our fingers crossed that the handbrake motor is okay. This side we've nearly got the hub assembly off, then we can fit the back plate properly and rebuild it properly. Whilst we're in there, we have to take the drive shaft out to do the job, so we're going to replace the ABS pickup ring which goes on the drive shaft. It's about 25 quid. We're in there, we're just doing it, there's no extra labour. And then calipers we're looking around £250 each, which obviously this is a budget project. This car has a profit margin in it which is very quickly disappearing. So we're going to shop around for some aftermarket calipers, which we do use aftermarket calipers, it's not a big deal. Start reassembling, and I really hope that this handbrake motor is good for Matt's sake. Shoes all back together, so now you can see, should that shoe move, it's gonna hit its stop. And we've got a later style shackle. We've replaced the shackle which has a stop on that as well, the newer style that stops the cable coming out. You can see the quality in them shoes are so much thicker and better, plus they fit properly. So I can reassemble this side and then we will show you building up the whole of the other side. We've got the hub off. This is the correct way to do it. So the new back plate's on. As you can see, it is a big job. I can see why they've cut that corner, literally cut a corner off the back plate to save a lot of labour. I can see why they've done that. So if you couldn't hear that, Paula is screaming down the radio because we had a car in for service yesterday. We always offer when we're servicing a car, would you like us to top up your AdBlue? We don't charge to do that, we just charge for the AdBlue to save you the massive inconvenience because it's a bit of a faff. Anyway, this particular customer declined. It's now the day after. He's now gone and bought his own AdBlue and he is panicking because he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't want to overfill it, he doesn't want to underfill it. He's got a jug of AdBlue on his shoulder trying to tip it in. It's just a nightmare. Just let us do it for you. You're stressing Paula out. The price you pay for it at the petrol station is the price that we charge. We don't make any money out of it. We're just offering to do it. Who wants to fill up with AdBlue? I don't like filling up with petrol, let alone AdBlue. You could imagine, couldn't you, a couple on the driveway, one holding the tank, one pointing, it's all over the floor, all over your nice Armani jacket or whatever. Just let us do it. Wait. As I was explaining, while we're in there, we're going to replace the ABS pickup ring. Why not? Get the new ring on, start reassembling this hub, because we want to get this back on the road. Can we save this car? Yes, we can. Alright, so hub back in, fresh Loctite on the bolts, get this bolted back in. Got the handbrake back together and we're just going to put the disc on, put the caliper on, put it all on loose to see if the handbrake works, fingers crossed. Before I put the disc back on, I thought I would explain how the handbrake shoe adjustment works. Basically that cog controls a thread in there, and as you turn it, wrong way, it pushes the shoes apart ever so slightly, and those shoes are coming apart like that. So when the disc is on, for this model, you do it all the way until you can't move the disc at all, and then you do it 10 notches back. So it's on a spring, it's on that spring there, and you do 10 notches. So if you can imagine, that's the cog, that's the spring. So that would be 1, 2, 3, and then you should be able to spin the handbrake freely, and then that's the mechanical adjustment for the electric motor. All the way up. So that's all the way up. Can't turn the disc, and then we do, like I explained, 10 notches back. They're not all 10 notches, it's quite model specific. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ignition on, handbrake released. Yep, handbrake engaged. Nervous. Yeah, no, it worked, it worked. Yeah, we have a handbrake. So I'll check the other side. Yep. And also we have had new calipers delivered. Mercedes calipers were £250 per side plus VAT. We managed to get a pair of reconditioned calipers for 150 quid. One of the calipers is on. we've now come across another problem where the brake pipe screws into the flexi, it's seized, it's stuck. The flare on the end's not very good, so it's just stuck on the flare basically. The rear brake pipes have been replaced before, so I'm going to have to cut the end of that off, straighten up the pipe, put a new flare on the end and put a new end on. So more problems. So basically that will not turn independently of the pipe. I can't screw it into the flexi, so it's going to have to come off, flare a new end on that, put a new end on and start afresh. New end put on the brake pipe, done a nice job of that. Nice bend to get it back in. So we can now twist that. So I'm going to put a new flexi on. And then we can bolt that up to our brand new union. Right, that's one side done. So it took a lot longer than expected because we weren't expecting to run into more problems. So hopefully the other side goes a bit smoother. There you can see now, all nice and good, how it should be looking. So we've done the other side. We had exactly the same problem with this side as we did the other side, as in we couldn't unscrew the end of the copper brake pipe. It was just solid, so we had to cut it off, put a new end on, flare the new end and fit it into the new brake hose. We've changed the rear brake hoses as well as the calipers because they were starting to crack. It's good practice to always do the pair. So now we've got to bleed it up, check the brakes again, make sure the wheels spin freely because before they were pretty much seized. I was really struggling to turn them. And then I think we're getting somewhere with this one. So believe it or not, the carb is in neutral now. Back wheel is spinning freely. Foot on the brake. Yeah. Off. So I think it's safe to say calipers have fixed the brake binding before it was absolutely solid. Check the other side. I don't even need to touch it. That's how free it was. You could see how bad it was before. So handbrake fixed. Had to redo everything again. New back plate, everything. New calipers to fix the wheels binding. New flexi hoses because it had cracked hoses. Then we had to redo the brake pipe ends. It's just way more than anticipated. It's been a bank holiday weekend, so my head's still in bank holiday mode. Right, time to road test Matt's cheap S-Class again. I took it out on a road test and I could hear a really bad metallic rattle from the front end as I was going over uneven surfaces. Back to the garage, the back plates have come detached from the front hubs. So I've taken the calipers off, took the discs off and re-secured the back plates to the hubs to get rid of that rattle. I think I've had these front wheels on and off 4 times. Anyway, beautiful summer's day. So far so good on the road test. No lights whatsoever, no smoke, no glow plug light. I've just stopped on a hill, put the electronic handbrake on. Everything good, everything nice. So as far as cheap S-Classes go, which, let's have it right, most of them are pretty terrible. They're cheap for a reason, they want loads of work. This is pretty good, it's not bad. Obviously we found faults with the car that Matt didn't know about. He's had brake work done, the handbrake shoes were a bit of a mess. I think that was just poor quality components. So we've had to redo a lot of that again. The back plate, passenger side rear was just demolished because of the handbrake shoes. We couldn't get a rear right one anyway, so we've made do with that as it is. It's about 4 hours labour per side. You know, that's nearly £1,000. We charge £100 an hour. Just nearly crashed into the back of a transit tipper. The inlet motor, would I do the bypass as a cheap fix? Yeah, I would. I'd just stick it in and get on with it. If it was E63 AMG, would I do it? No, I'd just fix it properly because the car's still quite valuable. Whereas this is an old smoker. And, you know, should you get back in there for a different repair, say the turbo failed, there's no workaround for that and you had to fit a turbo, I'd stick an inlet motor on it. But for the time being, that'll do fine. Like I say, I'm pretty sure the Sprinters don't even have one. They don't have the flaps in the inlet manifolds, they don't have the motor. The motor is naturally in the open position. It's probably got to do a better job of cleaning the engine out, to be honest. Blow the old cobwebs off. And plus, it gives us a chance of getting some miles on the car to make sure there's nothing else. Imagine if you got in there, did all that work, put a couple of 100 miles on it, and there's another problem. You'd be a bit annoyed. Probably within a day, I've had to ring him back and say, yeah, so we've saved 700 quid doing that fix, Matt. That's worked a treat. It's now enabled me to road test it properly. I've got the car back to the garage and the back brakes are practically on fire because your rear brakes are binding, so we need 2 calipers. What we saved, we've spent. That is cheap Mercedes for you. Whoa, someone's not happy with someone there. So, I think that concludes this video, hopefully. I hope nothing else goes wrong in the meantime, because every time I fix something else has gone wrong. Make sure you like and subscribe, and provided nothing goes wrong now, and I don't have to cut to something else being repaired, we'll see you on the next one.